Hello and welcome to Elo Health's GitGud Season 5. For tonight, we get to watch the fight for redemption. A last opportunity to try to get back in the playoffs by beating the other teams that will be in this fight for redemption. An opportunity to sign ourselves up for this. We've got 3 teams in total for you: the Groovy Gang, SM, and Kaibade. So this will be the plays. This will be the plays that we'll be seeing. Yeah, that is going to be the thing that we will be waiting out for. I will be your play-by-play caster for this. Belly with me is Ocean on the color seat. And, I mean, Fight for Redemption is a bit different, isn't it, Ocean?
Yeah, it's always a bit of a unique experience. And I mean, usually I'll go deep into the analytics of what team has what record, blah, 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 blah. No one cares about that. This is the Fight for Redemption. All you gotta do is play one control round with a 70% tick rate, which means it'll go a little bit slower. So it's one slightly longer control round. Beat your opponents, and you will secure your slot in our postseason playoffs, which is always super exciting. It's something to put on the CV, and that is always exciting to play for. So let's see what these teams have got here for us today.
Yes, that is going to be the thing that we're going to be waiting out. It should be Lijiang Tower a random map, or do we know which specific map that we're going to be seeing?
Let's play a guessing game. Play a guessing game.
Sure.
So, Belly, you owe me your entire house if it's garden, and I'll give you a penny if it's control center.
I've got so many things to say about that I'm not going to be doing because we're on stream. But no, you're not be getting my house. I like my house. It is very nice, and I live in it, so I kind of need it. But I would hope for a control center to be the map personally. I know you're a fan of gardens. I'm a fan of control center, and watch it be night market. But yes. It is going to be one of the maps on Lijiang Tower. That is at the very least one thing that we know. So it's going to be waiting out what is going to be happening. But indeed, the rule set is 70% tick rate. So the feel of the map, we've noticed this previous time around when we did the Fight for Redemption for previous season and for this season, that the feel does change. Where you're like a second away from usually where you would grab the point, or whereas like, yeah, we've got last fight territory at 86%. Usually that's like last fight territory. It's like 86%. We've got like still 2 more fights in. Yeah, it's fine. It really changes the whole dynamic of the map.
Yeah, I wonder how many of these teams have been like coached and set up to where 85% is not the magic number for last fight territory. It's now like 92. It's just super like weird. Like, it's just different for all of these teams, and whoever adapts first and whoever adapts quickest is gonna probably win. And I mean, maybe the teams that are playing this first round might have a slight advantage later on because they'll have adapted sooner. But you only get one chance. You lose, you're out, and you're going home, and you will not be in our post-season playoffs. So you got to adapt fast, otherwise you will be eliminated.
There's only one chance, and it is like you win a few fights, and like, okay, well, usually we'd be at 50%. We're at 30. What? Huh? Why are we at 30? What happened? It's just a whole different vibe. Though, one thing that is going to be important as well is you do have a bit of extra time to potentially make some team swaps in case you want to swap out your composition. Though, what would you want to see coming on out for these teams if we're going to be just playing the one map?
Yeah, so what that actually does change is, in particular, the vibe of Night Market. Night Market's usually whoever can get to that first point first and control the space around the point, because it's a really difficult point to break into, especially if you're running something like a Symmetra, which slows down the opponents, like a Mei, which forces them through those chokes. Also, similar to Control Center, whoever wins that first fight has such a unique advantage where you're just able to control that space. However, with this 70% take rate, you have so much more time to make swaps to your composition that maybe it's not that big of an advantage anymore. You have so much more time to switch off, so much more time to build ultimates, and so much more time to methodically break through that choke that maybe it's not that big of a difference anymore.
Maybe not, as indeed we have been duped. We are on Night Market. To get to watch this first map, so neither of us got it right. And indeed, Night Market will be where we will be battling this out between the Groovy Gang and SM.
Yeah, your house is safe for now. But however,
Yeah.
let's see which of these teams' house is safe after this. I hope that's not actually what's on the line in this game. Otherwise, that joke is severely out of context that I don't like it anymore.
Well, it is a night market now on the table. I'm seeing for the Groovy Gang a bit of dive coming out for SM. Also a similar DPS at the moment. But it's going to be the question what tanks are going to be coming out.
Yeah, so on the side of the Gravy Gang, we see a more dive composition, which is really aggressive. This is going to want to win fights quickly, and you know that Mercy's going to be providing good pocket damage to both the Genji and the Pharah. The resources are going to be going mainly on the DPS. So they're going to be wanting to finish these fights fast. Where on the other side, they're a more stable composition with the double shield and the Symmetra, where you're going to want to force tanks in on you and slow them down and then win the fight from there. So we'll see how that works out for both teams in this matchup.
D4 already pumping some damage on from up high, but it's going to be War Creature that picks up the first kill onto Little Cool. Losing one of your tanks is very much detrimental in these fights, and as the second one drops as well for SM, it's looking rough for the team in red. It's looking like the Groovy Gang is going to pick up this point first.
Yeah, so the Groovy Gang, as I said, their composition wants to make fights quick, wants to get rid of those fights, and already look at that tick rate. It feels like forever that point was capped, and we're only on 3% right now, but another thing to point out is that as the dogfight goes on in the air, is the ultimate advantage firmly in favor of the Groovy Gang as they won that first fight pretty dominantly.
Very dominantly indeed. The Groovy Gang now on point. The FIFA feed gets taken out by higher pubs. The res is available to bring the Genji back, so it's still going to be capable of putting out some damage. Bass is going to put out the Nano onto the Winston of World Creature. BDMC has dropped in the backline, but as the Winston is going forward, 2 picks in favor once again for the Groovy Gang, and as the third drops, SM is not looking like they will have a chance to retake this point just yet.
Yeah, so that fight looked pretty good for SM. They got the kill immediately on the FIFA feat, so that he was, you know, kind of their win condition for the next fight because they had the Nano Blade online for that fight. However, they pushed in a little bit aggressively, and as I said earlier, the pace of the fight wants to be fast for the Groovy Gang, and they're not really playing to their competition right now.
FIFA dropping again, and as well, Creature is also down. Grim Reaper's looking to get the barrage in, but takes a chunk too much damage. SM looking to bring this one on back in their favor, and no ultimates used. A very clean fight.
Yeah, they just catch, I think, World Creature and FIFA feat off guard yet again. However, the discipline the Groovy Gang showed early on where they didn't use many of their ultimates is going to pay off, because now we have an even ultimate fight, which could be a lot worse for the Groovy Gang right now. Usually when you lose control of the point on control, you're going to be at a severe ultimate disadvantage, and you're going to have to wait and set up for a couple fights. But now it's even playing ground for both of these teams.
Feed goes into the back line. Get halted off. It's going to be the Nano, that's going to be the Blade, going straight over to the Arista, interestingly enough. Picks up the 1 kill, looking for a few more, doesn't find anything else. The Coalescence does get invested though by the team in red. Barrage comes from up top. Both barrages, and the one from UTD4 is going to pick up the most of value here, as I'm still controlling this point. The Groovy Gang has not managed to pull this one on back. As does come on through, though you've just lost most of your team. That's an unfortunate circumstance. Groovy Gang is still not able to bring it back.
Yeah, Groovy Gang used all of their ultimates apart from their self-destruct in that fight as well, so not much value for their ultimates. However, nothing really online for the side of SM. They've really just got the Deadeye and the Supercharger, which could be a pretty nice combo that they could use, but still relatively even playing field, as SM now are about to even the percentage on the point for Groovy Gang.
That's a big pick, already getting Grim Reaper out of the fight. It's going to be the question whether the Reds will be able to come through in the back line. This is kind of getting out. Speedy MC not going for that ability, and the Groovy Gang is just kind of trying to regroup at the moment.
Yeah, Groovy Gang getting a little bit staggered out best here. Losing the Diva Mech, which means they're going to have to go and reset before the next fight, so they'll have that self-destruct online. And really, looking at the ultimates for the Groovy Gang, they're going to have to try and win the next fight of the Nano Blade. They're going to have to play it slow, and they can do that. They have the advantage of the 70% tick rate for that. They're going to have to play it slow, wait for that Nano Blade to come online, and go for it from there. And maybe they can do what they have been showing earlier in these fights, have been focusing little cooldown. That's with the Nano Blade, and also early in the first fight. So that's what they're going to look to do yet again here.
Start comes down in the backline, doesn't find anything. The FIFA feed pumping out a lot of damage against this Visa having the blade up again. Those BDMC drops a bit too much damage coming go through there. Coalescence as well. SM having good control of this map at the moment. Groovy Gang not really finding the value for their dive.
Yeah, they're not getting anything. They put a lot of resources on their little cool and they didn't secure the kill. The supercharger went out and they kind of were caught with their trousers down and they were forced out and taken down. However, 95%. They should have time to touch. However, it's going to be a close one and they have Nano Blade to do it.
That's going to be the blade. The Nano also comes on through. The VVP does not manage to make it to point. The rest of the team does. Little cool drops. We've got a trade now. DPS for a tank. So Harry Pope is of course out. High Noon from on a back is looking for some, finds it on Woe Creature. That's going to be a D-Mac. Though while this was going on, the Groovy Gang managed to flip this point around in their own favor. Not for long, S&M brings it on back. That's overtime wick burning down. And S&M looking to clear this out. Just a few stragglers are going to be coming on in. It's going to be staggering into this point. VVP gets taken out as well. Now indeed, overtime is going to be burning down faster and faster as AJ Tracer is just trying to clear this one out. Grim Reaper picks up one kill. Now one Diva is the sole survivor left. It is just a matter of stagger picks. Overtime burns down. That will be SM winning this fight for redemption.
Yeah, it looked really good for the Groovy Gang early on. They were taking the fights quickly like their comp suggests. However, later on when they knew that SM at the point, they knew what their win condition was, which was setting up for that Nano Blade. They were unable to play to that slower pace that you need to when you're playing for a win condition like Nano Blade, where you're 30% off over those ultimates. And they kind of rushed things. And I do like their strategy of just putting all resources onto a particular player. That actually worked early on for them. They got 2 quick picks onto Little Cool in the fights they were taking quicker. However, later on in the series, it was identified by SM. They give a little bit more appeal to their Arista Sigma player in Little Cool and made sure that they were able to keep their tank player alive, which meant that they will move on to the finals or a fight for redemption, which is a fight for redemption for a spot in the playoffs.
As is going to be indeed the spot in the playoffs. That's going to be against Kaibade, who were then the higher seed, I believe. Groovy Gang indeed now knocked out, unfortunately. I think I don't want to point out, like, those blades were good win conditions, but honestly, Orisa is probably not the best target for you to go for with a Nano Blade.
Yeah, realistically, they should have looked for targets like the Lucio. Or the Mercy that they were running at times. Actually, it was the Mercy. I don't know why I said Lucio. They were running a more Mercy composition. Completely lost my head for a second. But yeah, they really should have went for that Mercy or the 4 in the sky. Put some pressure because they were also really losing out in that 4 duel. We saw Pharmacy on Pharmacy, and realistically, tough one there. UTD4 was getting the better in that 4 duel early on, and Grim Reaper struggled, so maybe putting a little bit more pressure on that duel and getting a bit more value out of the 4 was the option. But another player I didn't highlight at all was AJ Tracer. Building those Deadeyes extremely quickly, pumping in a lot of damage, landing those flashbangs under Woe Creature, which meant that McCree was getting a stupendous amount of value.
Getting a whole amount of kills, managing to just completely negate the value that the Groovy Gang was trying to get with the Far Mercies. So, and I would absolutely agree that AJ Tracer definitely helped their team to a victory, though. Very good placement, very good positioning, and just a very good play all around from the team of SM. It's going to be the question whether Kaibade is going to be able to break through that, or whether SM is going to be coming away with the victory.
Yeah, another thing to point out that quite interesting enough is we saw some sort of Sigma Reinhardt composition come out from them. Originally hype up on the Reinhardt and Little Cool and Sigma, and they switched up immediately, went to the more traditional double shield, which is Arista Sigma, which is a lot more stable composition. Whereas Ryan Sigma kind of played into what Groovy Gang wanted to do. Groovy Gang want to take those fights fast, and Ryan Sigma also wants to take the fights fast. However, not Kaibid. Kaibid's our next team coming in. Groovy Gang decided to play a faster paced composition that suited them a lot more, so they make a really nice adaptation over to the more stable and traditional Arista Sigma composition, and that definitely helped them there. But will they run the Ryan Sigma or the Arista Sigma immediately in the next round? It'll be interesting to see if SM goes for one of those options again, or maybe something different. We'll find out.
That is going to be the question. It's going to be on Oasis at the very least, so it's also going to be wondering which map again we're gonna be seeing. Whether it's going to be city center, whether it's going to be another gardens, or whether it's going to be university, because it also very much dictates on what you're going to be running, what you're going to be playing, and can also to a degree really affect how you feel about the map. Like maybe this is one of your less favorite maps.
Yeah, well, we'll find out. Maybe like I just don't like, for example, city center is a pretty unique point, as well as a university. They're both very, very unique in the aspect of Overwatch. There's not many maps like them. University's very, very broad centric, and city center is one of the more open control maps. One of the maps where dive has flourished recently. So we'll see what favors each team, but I feel like if you're Kaiwage, you probably know that SM aren't comfortable in that dive mirror, so you might want sort of city center for them, but SM will probably be begging for something like garden or university.
This could be very possible. Keep in mind, this should be, as far as I'm aware, randomly selected. So this is going to be waiting out what is actually going to be the map, same as before. But Oasis, at the very least, city center did very open, a lot of high ground to use for your favor, and I like just seeing the broad. Like I'm just a fan of brawly style compositions. I like just teams running at each other and bashing each other's skulls, and I can't help it. It's just one of the things that I enjoy seeing in Overwatch, and this is probably why I'm a Ride main. But let's see. But with that all being said, we're gonna be indeed taking a short moment for all of these teams to set up. So make sure to stick around. We're going to be right back in just a few minutes. Hello and welcome back to Elo Hell's GitGud Season 5, the fight for redemption, Kaibait versus SM. I'll be a play-by-play caster, Belly. With me is Ocean on the color seat, and we are going to be watching these teams brawl it out on one single map of a control point to see who can make it back to the playoffs.
Yeah, we will be playing one control point of Oasis between University Garden and City Centre. We apologise for the long break. However, we are almost ready to get into the action to see who will take the last spot in our console EU GitGud playoffs.
Absolutely, the playoffs, which will be across this weekend. I'm pretty sure all of EU's playoffs will be played across this weekend.
Yeah, the finals on Sunday.
Yes, so make sure to tune in for all of that and to follow also the socials to keep up to date for all of the playoffs goodness that we will be able to watch across the weekend. Though for now, we've got EU Fight for Redemption. SM has already won their first matchup versus the Groovy Gang. So they're already 1 point out, but they do still need to fight Kaibait, the higher seed, so they got placed higher in this ladder. So SM still has one team to beat to try and get into the playoffs. Kaibait just has SM to go. So there's going to be a bit of a toss-up of who is going to be coming in and who's going to make it through to the playoffs.
Yeah, we sure will find out. We saw SM struggle early on in their matchup when they were coming against the fast-paced dive composition that Groovy Gang wanted to run, and then they made the swap to the more traditional, more stable Arista Sigma composition, which proved to be a very valuable change from there. As soon as they built up the ultimates with that composition, they were able to win the rest of the round without chopping a fight. We'll see what they opt for early on this time, whether they want to go for the Rhine Sigma, which might be more optimal for them, or if they go straight away for that Arista Sigma composition. We will wait to see.
That's going to be the questions. Also, definitely going to matter because keep in mind, it's going to be a random which map of Oasis we will be seeing. So that's also going to be dictating naturally a bit more of what is going to be the composition that will be coming out for these teams. City Center, a lot of open space, University, usually a bit more brawly. Then you've got the Gardens, which also tends to be also a bit more dive focused. Oftentimes, so same a bit like Night Market, very variable on Gardens.
Yeah, I mean, we have to now, since we've had such a long break, we will address our rules here. As we said, one control point of one control map, but it is a 70% tick rate, so the tick rate goes up a little bit slower than before. So realistically, last fight territory isn't 85% anymore; it's around 92, 91%, where you can get a clean fight, and so that is something the teams are going to have to adapt to throughout this control point. And something interesting is SM have been able to play with that 70% tick rate, which is a pretty unique rule, which means that Kaibait have a little bit of catching up today.
Absolutely, that is something you really have to get used to. The timing of it, the feel of it. You've mentioned it earlier in the earlier game where it felt like the control was already around for a while, where you'd figure like at least 10% would have been given. Like that feeling is what you get, but then you see 3% in the counter, and you're like, hold up there. So it does really change around how. Even this slight change of a 30% difference can really change the feel of these matchups.
Yeah, it looks like we've got Oasis Garden, so a pretty popular forward point because there is a lot of, it's quite a big skybox, so a lot of room for the forward to operate, and there's a lot of like natural cover in the sky. There's a lot of pillars that the forward can operate around. So forward pretty popular on this point. So we'll probably see a bit of a forward matchup, and we'll see if there is a hit scan duel to watch out for.
That's going to be a question. Kaibait coming out with the Metra SM. Having a Tracer on the Bastion at the very least, both of these teams running the double shield. Difference in the McCree versus the Bastion coming on out is going to be UTD4, really pumping out some damage from up on high. Kaibait making their way onto the point, while SM is setting up above the point. Tracer looking for those air targets, but finds Road Warrior first. Gets halted down, so now is forced away from the team. The rest comes in. The Batiste is back for this fight. A lot of healing now still available, especially in the Immortality field as well. We still have trades coming in. Little Ghoul picking up 2 here in this fight. Both the Fire Mercy down. Harry Pope's picking up a 3rd and is looking for the 4th. be SM looking to get this map early on. Mongovic, the last one left.
Yeah, interesting team fight. As we saw GitGud go for a little bit of a sim teleporter strategy so he could get that double shield to the point first. However, it looks like they might have made a mistake on that one if they didn't get to the point first. As you see, SM were able to bunker up on that high ground with the Bastion competition. They were able to get the Bastion off of that high ground. However, a little bit of poor focus fire, a little bit of tunnel vision from GitGud, and they lose the fight in the end.
Road Warrior gets taken out already. OG Hunter does get the trade, and once again this res is available. UTD trying to get this dogfight in the air going on as the amplification matrix comes down on point. Battlefield's already gotten taken out. Little Cool goes for a bit of a flank, though the team around him is dropping. Having lost UTD, having lost the Orisa and the Batiste. Road Warrior doing a lot of damage, and Kaibate is flipping the point in their favor.
Yeah, OG Hanzo had a pretty clean fight there, making sure that they take down AJ Tracer and then making sure that that Resurrect can go up onto Road Warrior so they get the advantage in the next fight. Despite SM using both of their support ultimates, GitGud looked pretty clean as OG Hanzo wins the DPS duel with DTB4 and GitGud pick up their first percentage on the point.
GitGud now with good control, having a fair few ultimates. Valkyrie is ready to get used. The Barris comes in as well from up on high. The shield actually from the Sigma goes a bit too far, does not deny too much. We're now pulling out the Gravitic Flux as well. Nobody dies because the Immortality Field is still available. Pulse Bomb as well doing a fair chunk of damage, takes out that lamp. As SM is now starting to clear up, they are looking to bring this point back in their favor. There are a few last stragglers to go, and Kaibate could still be staggering this one out. There are still trades happening. Both of the supports still alive for the team in blue. They are still contesting, but now SM is going to be losing this point. Just one Batiste is not going to be enough.
Yeah, so SM get the point right back. However, with the slower tick rate, they are a little bit of a disadvantage. They're probably one fight behind GitGud, and they're gonna have to deal with one particular ultimate, and that's Michael's supercharger. It's the one ultimate in particular that they have an extreme advantage on in the ultimate economy, and that's the one to watch out for in the next fight.
Johnson keeping an eye out for the Tracer, however, now gets just damaged too much by the Orisa. This will be coming on through, but the Pulse will make sure that he goes down again. Amplification Matrix too much damage to deal with. Kaibate not really having the opportunity to really push in without that extra DPS.
Yeah, so they just have to back off. They lost their McCree, so a little bit of time off the clock and a little bit more percentage for SM, who are doing one thing in this double shield really well, and that is making sure that they have a crossfire. However, here comes Barrage from Woody Wade.
Barrage picks up 2 and the Immortality Field, so this is going to be Kaibate trying to pull this one on back. We're now at almost 60% for SM. But they are still, once again, just contesting this one out. Tracer comes up point, it gets flashbang, but manages to barely get out of harm's way. Mercy too difficult to hit for a while, but eventually also gets cleaned up. It's now 43 to 64.
Yeah, and what GitGud do is they don't use any of their support ultimates. They've got a massive support ultimate advantage next fight. Look at the sum off and Uprising Gulf, 44 and 5% on their ultimates. However, Chemist and Road Warrior have theirs online, and that can definitely help them build up that Gravitic Flux and also use that Deadeye to an extreme advantage.
Warrior gets taken out immediately. UTD4 picking up 2 kills. The Hydra training it out. Still anyone's fight. With Weeb though, with barely any health left. Warrior once again the Batiste, a double kill with that amplification matrix as well coming down on the floor. Mongovic having some trouble here cleaning this one out, but Kaibate has control of the point still.
Yeah, and it is the support ultimates that actually makes that advantage. They are kind of even going into the fight, and then Road Warrior gets resurrected by the Mercy, and then Chemist activates the Valkyrie, which means OG Hunter has that damage boost for the Deadeye. It gets 2. And while this forward duel goes on, the point keeps ticking on up for GitGud.
Now at 80%, once again, keep in mind 86 is not that last for territory anymore. With Road Warrior getting taken out once again, SM with a good opportunity to try and get this fight in their favor. As that support drops once again, the OG Hunter tries to flank this one on out. Kaibate trying to just get that percentage up to 99. Mercy gets body blocked, is gonna just deny that space, and SM will pick up the point for themselves.
Yeah, they get it to 96%, which is probably last fight territory, so SM can't really make any mistakes. They can't really lose a fight. However, they will have Supercharger and Barrage and even Valkyrie online in the next sort of time period. And AJ Tracer is building pretty quickly up to that bulb, so if they can manage their ultimates correctly and stop OG Hans at getting any value with the data and break that Supercharger quickly, they definitely have a shot of winning it.
G40 just hanging like a hawk over the enemy team, ready with the barrage. Winweep still has a bit of farming to do to get that one up. That's where the barrage now comes through from way up on high, takes out Road Warrior. Is gonna get taken out as well. In return, the high noon from OG Hanzo picks up the other DPS, and as the rest comes through from both teams. And Kaibet once again with a distinct advantage in this fight. The Valkyrie for the red team is there. That's a fire for me to D40 just kind of lands in front of the OG Hanzo. The solo Farah, the lone survivor at this point for this team. The point does get flipped. It's 99. It's going to be 99 to 99. Down the Hammond coming back in from Little Ghoul. Once again, this amplification matrix we've seen. We're already getting so much value for it, but this time no gets moved off by the Hammond. That's one kill that you're not going to be able to resurrect on Ag. Gravitic Flux comes on through. Barrage to follow it on Ag. Kaibet looking to clear this one off. Overtime is going to be ticking down as Little Cool gets dropped. Overtime goes down. No, the Farah comes on back. Once again, it's going to be on the edge, but no, Kaibet will pick up the victory in this fight for redemption and make it over to the playoffs.
Yeah, Kaibet will be your last team in the playoffs and postseason before GitGud console EU. And let's talk about this matchup near the end before those last few team fights. We saw Harry Pope and UTD both had the Barrage and Supercharger online, but unable to get any value out of it at all. Those ultimates getting zero volume. Kaibet eventually building up to their ultimates as SM missed the sort of window of time where they could win the fight quickly, and Kaibet then building up to their ultimates and then making sure they get the maximum value, and they will take Oasis Gardens and be your final team in playoffs.
Indeed, with that, Kaibet closes out this fight for redemption. That was the only matches we had. Once again, we apologize for the delay, but we managed to get there in the end. Congratulations to Kaibet to make it back into the playoffs, where they're going to be taking it up against all of the other amazing teams. But for that, we're going to have to wait until the rest of the weekend. Tomorrow and a Sunday will be the rest of the EU playoffs, as I tried to take my cat out of the way. Hi, here's Ruby. She comes to stream every so often. But that being said, indeed, that was the fight for redemption. Make sure to indeed tune in the rest of the weekend. GitGud console EU playoffs and a fight for redemption as well coming out later. But just make sure to stay tuned for all of this GitGud goodness on console. That was us. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.